The more I think about it, the more I feel just constantly challenged with how I need to like change my life and change how I'm living. And,
I want to ask you to give us like concrete examples. You may not wish to because you might feel like you're bragging or telling us, some virtuous things you've done recently and how you've changed. But we need some concrete things here. Like, what is it you mean? When
I'll just toss one out. I really don't think that there's any justification for a Christian to have a 401k.
Okay.
I don't think there's a justification for Christians to have their IRAs, their retirement plans.
And why?
I think, there's quite a number of reasons. Let me start off with the 401ks, which are the things that entice us into blind investing. When we go to our employer and he gives us a retirement account and he gives us one or two options, maybe 10, maybe 12 options about how we can invest our funds. He's giving us options of mutual funds, of ETFs, of a huge basket of stocks that we really don't know what's in there or what they are doing, or just, we know about how effective they are at giving us a return, but we really don't know what kingdom we're building up within them. They lead us towards blind investing. And when you see the magisterial tradition talking about Christian investments, they are acts by which we rely on providence because we don't know what they're going to, how they're going to work out. We don't, and their acts primarily, as John Paul II says, to dignify the labor of our neighbor. They are meant to be beneficent gifts in order to make our neighbor's life better, to dignify the way that he's living. And when we're looking around at a good 401k program, that's not the mentality of it. But even beyond that, what are the things that we are actively building up? And we recently went through the most popular liberal, or what I call liberal, secular is what many people call accounts out there of like Vanguard and Fidelity. And we found that they were about 40% nefarious, like 40% just obviously against Catholic social teaching between utilizing child labor, utilizing slave labor. And I'm not talking about on like a tiny scale. I'm talking about big scale utilizing child labor, slave labor, things that are production of contraceptions, of abortifacients, huge billions of dollars going to Planned Parenthood. Usury. I mean, I know usury sounds like an antiquated sin, and we can kind of, go back and forth about what percentage is like usurious or whatnot. I don't think that's the way to argue it, but I think we can all agree that like 400% interest is a bit too much. And on all these popular accounts, that's what you find as institutions charging these insane sums, hateful to one's neighbor. Pornography, or at least pornographic content, adult content. I mean, it's incredible. And then we went through like Catholic funds, and we found the exact same thing, similar percentages, somewhere sitting between 27 and 40%, 38%, I think is what it is. All the data, all of our research is on newpolity.com.
Okay.
So we have it there. I mean, and that's...
Is it easy to find? Because we'll put a link in the description for people to check that out.
Look up?
Yeah, actually, I think it's the first, if you just, I can't remember what the
case against blind investing.
Yeah, so right there, that's the article. Mm-hmm. Buried in that article is a link to the whole spreadsheet of research as well, if people are interested in that. I think this is just one example in which it's really difficult to argue that a 401k is a good idea. And people might say things like self-directed 401ks, and we can further get into those arguments. But the general 401k plans that are offered by Newman Guide schools, by Catholic dioceses, by Catholic apostolates, they're all doing this, and they don't have any better options really available to them right now.
Have you contacted them and challenged them on this?
I have.
What was the response?
No response from a number of them. One of them saying, no, we are like living out our values. I said, well, like, how can you say that?
Values is such an effeminate word.
I know.
Can we just say that?
And so then they specified, okay, I said, look, your marketing says that you are following Catholic guidelines, on Catholic investment guidelines. Like, that's just clearly not true by, I gave them a list of companies that were in there. And and they said, well, actually, we're just interested in kind of life issues that people are not, companies are not investing in pornography, that are not giving the Planned Parenthood, that are not.
It's a start.
And it is a start, but it's like, really? Like, Catholic ethical life is summed up in like not giving to, fetal stem cell research.
Yeah.
It's like
but
that's
child slave labor.
Great, you've exhausted it. Yeah, but child slave labor is not a thing. Or just child labor and slave labor. I mean, those,
see.
both of and even like of their standards, I said, okay, here's like the research. I'm sending you, articles here saying that these companies that you're investing in actually are still investing in the values that you've just purported, those life issues. They're still like giving the Planned Parenthood. They're still, giving towards abortions and whatever.
Do you think for many of us, just a willful blindness? Because I don't know who made my jacket or my shirt.
I do want to make a distinction. I do want to make sure that this is not too harsh. I'm mainly upset in those cases with the fund managers who are making these decisions and then putting out the marketing, like doing the research, and they have done a terrible job. I'll use that word. They did a terrible job of making those decisions. But for just the average guy who's out there, I think he has no idea, and like I don't want to berate him at all. I just think these are some of the radical challenges that Christ. This is like clear. The magisterial tradition has told us. But even if you go online and you find what the USCCB has said for their guidelines for investment, I mean, man, those are actually pretty good guidelines. It's very rare when the bishops, I feel like, have like told us something straight, and they totally have on this. They say, when a company is engaged in nefarious activities, you have one of two options: do not invest or divest. It's like, okay, great, that's pretty clear. There's just no options for any gray. There is no gray within those conversations. So it's not like this is actually a fringe thing within the church. It's just that nobody in the church ever talks about money until they're fundraising. And at that point, they're kind of flattering you oftentimes. And I say that as a fundraiser too, So, there's a lot of that going on. And I think if you really love someone, and we're all concerned about our souls, we really need to be listening to the truths that the tradition has told us.
It may be because retirement feels a long way off, or because I don't even think about retirement, but the idea of not having a 401k doesn't bother me in the slightest.
Yeah.
Does it bother a lot of people? That's a serious question.
It does. And there will be a lot of angry comments on here. And I really want to pay all respect to those people, because this is, 59% of working Americans have 401ks. 31% of all Americans, I think, have 401ks. I mean, it's a huge percentage. It's somewhere around there. Catholic Jamie can fact check me on that. But it's primarily, sorry, I do want to sorry about this, but it's just kind of that wisdom that Dad's always given us, like always put away 10% of your paycheck and put it forward to the future. I mean, what we've kind of, what this claim is of saying like we should close our 401ks, take the hit, whatever else. It speaks against all financial wisdom. And I want to emphasize this: financial wisdom that works. Like, you are just going to have more money if you have these 401ks. Like, you are going to be better off financially if you have it. I think there's many. You're
not saying, or are you saying, don't save for retirement?
I would go as far as to say don't save for retirement.
How is that not very irresponsible?
Well, it depends.
I want to take care of my family, and I may only be able to work for the next 10 or 20 years. And,
sure.
I want to see to it that they're not destitute and taken care of. And you're telling me not to look forward to that, not to prepare for that.
I think there might be a different challenge. So let me pose this back to you, and then you can challenge me maybe harder on this, because I think it's important. Like, push me to the edge on this. Some people need to save for retirement because they don't have children, but I think children are our retirement. I think that's the way that God originally designed it. That's just the natural process. That you are a baby when you're born, that you are just taken care of. You will die if the people are not giving everything for you.
I see.
Once you're raised old enough, then your job is to be the carer of everyone. And then once you're old again, you are to be cared for by others. But in the middle, it's our job to sacrifice.
I see. But we've created a society where it's really unacceptable to keep your family in your house. Ship grandma away or mum away to the nursing home, and
or we say things like we cannot take care of them, and in some cases it is too much.
Yeah,
and I totally grant that, and I'm not arguing against that either. That it's at some points like people like the medical conditions or whatever is just too much. But at that point, like if that happened to my mom, I would think that that's just totally my responsibility. To take care of her even there. If like
you mean financially?
Financially there. Like there is and there's some sort of
but what if virtue. What if that financial burden was to put such a strain on your family that you wouldn't be able to provide for them sufficiently in the coming years, which is partly why you should be putting away for your retirement? I see. I'm missing the point. The point is that Blaze would then be in charge, your son.
Yeah, there you go. So, but I mean, keep pushing at me because I think there's...
I don't know what I don't know to push or not push.
Well,
this isn't something I've thought a great deal about, but
Yeah.
I love what you're saying. Like, I don't know, like, it's like we want to build a new society, but we're also want to be realists about the society in which we live now and have to manage through.
I'll just toss one other thing out because I think people think of this is that they don't want to be a burden on their children. And I think it's a really good thing for us to be. I say that with all the expectation of, for caring for my mom and for my in-laws. I also like anticipate like having to be taken care of by my children. And I hope that will be an aid to me getting to heaven, because they're the ones that I changed the diapers for, or that I saw them when they're like this impotent, irrational little kid, and now I have to don the humility to be taken care of by them. I think that is part of the reason why God designed life to be like that, is to be kind of like last rites, a last push for our holiness to die well, and to be able to see him. I think that the idea of not wanting to be a burden on our children ends up like de facto making us a burden on other people. We just don't know those people, and we're giving some sort of incentive through money instead of incentive through love to do that.
Yeah, and there's an analogy here, isn't there, to create a society in which the mother can't feasibly stay at home with her children, and then daycare becomes a necessity, and we even pretend that daycare could be a better thing than their mother being at home with them.
Yeah, which is insane.
So it's a sort of similar sort of culture that we've created, maybe because of our greed, that you're saying that we want to try to overthrow and not go along with.
That's right. We've outsourced, and I think pulling away from that is really tough, because you might be 60 years old, you might be like a year away from retirement right now. You've saved up so much for it. You've made the sacrifices to save up. I don't want to, for a moment, take away from that. You've not raised your kids to expect you taken care of. I think that that this is like the tough thing about the conversion phase of a culture. Like, as a culture, we have not been living as Christians have lived. If we're going to start converting back, the cultural order is going to have to change again. And some of us are just not going to be able to go along with it, given with where we are in life. We should make every effort we can, but it's really tough. It's really tough, and there's just going to be a lot of direct and remote cooperation and evil going along. There's going to be a lot of us in many different spheres of our lives being hypocrites along the way. And the goal is, I think Mark's said it really well, is that, but that is a Christian self-awareness to know where we're hypocrites. That's means that we are.
Well, what are some ways our life should look different now that don't have to do with investing?
But before we move on, though, the 32% of working Americans are in 401ks.
Okay.
Also, while I was looking this up, something interesting is in 2000 there was 1.7 trillion in the like investment market, I guess, quote unquote, and then in quarter two of 2021, as of quarter two of 2021, it's 7.2 trillion. So just in those years, it's times 7 the amount of money that's just in retirement investment. So that's an interesting statistic, which I'll link to have behind what you're saying.
Cool, thanks.
It's a lot more money in retirement.
Yeah, well, they actually almost, that infrastructure bill that passed, and when was that, October or something like that? I can't remember. Is that they actually almost made it a requirement for all companies in America who had 5 or more employees to have 401ks. Like, there's a huge like push. Like our pagan overlords are pushing us into that. And I don't want to draw anything from that fact other than to say we should really reflect on why is it that they want us in those accounts. So.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment below letting us know what you thought about the video.